Story time with a retail legend. Let's jump in and let's listen and learn. Welcome to Decision Points. I'm Doug Hudson.
I'm Scott Wood.
Man, we're excited. We're glad to have Crawford Brock, owner of Stanley Korshak. If our listeners don't know, they should know. What is Stanley Korshak?
It's a retail store at the Crescent.
It's a little more than
It's a little more than that. Come on.
He's very humble.
Well, yeah, it's we've found our niche. It's working.
It's a very nice store at the Crescent. You guys have been there how long now?
38 years.
That's incredible.
39.
Right.
I've been there 38.
How'd they survive the first year without you?
Well, they almost didn't.
That's why you're that's why he's there.
That's right. Well, kind of, yeah. Ms. Hunt built the Crescent, opened it up in 85, I think it was.
The Crescent was open in 85?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
And so the office tower, the hotel, and the retail complex. And Stanley Korshak was the anchor tenant, and they came out of Chicago, which is a great story about who these brothers were because they were scandalous. Anyway, so the group that came down with Korshak to open it up ran out of money, brought the keys back to Carolyn Hunt, who owned it, and said, we're out of money, we're leaving. And she didn't want to go dark, so she brought in a consulting firm to kind of hold things steady until they could find somebody to run it. So a headhunter approached me about coming back to run it. And I'm running now the Neiman Beverly Hills store, which was the first $100 million store, 450 employees, and I was a squirt kid. I went out at 28, and I was 33 now, and I turned it down. Yeah, I know.
You were living in L.A., so.
Well, Beverly Hills is a cool place.
Beverly Hills, Neiman Marcus,
it's a cool place.
In the 80s, I'm thinking
it was a hot town.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it is today, but people are moving there from all over the country, and all the beautiful people because they were trying to get discovered.
Yeah.
And also, Texas had come to Hollywood, the Dallas program, and then all the offshoots from Dallas. And I'm right in the middle of all that, so I'm meeting all these cool people. But anyway, so I get this call, turned it down. That was in August of 87. They called back and then said, what have we left off your bucket list? Because, they had a nice offer. And I said, well, to leave Neiman's after 12 years, the number one store, probably to own my own business would really get me excited about leaving.
Yeah.
And when I told that to the headhunter, he, said, let me get back to you. And he called me back and said, yeah, we can make that work. I'm like, really? So I moved back and then walked into a disaster. They were doing no business, losing money. And, I was a president of the company. So they had these president meetings. So the oil and gas guys and then the hotel and resorts. And then there was kind of another thing called all other. And there's a bar graph. And I'm sitting in this
And
meeting,
you're in the all other category?
All other. And it was all in the red, and I'm like, kid, the oil and gas is showing billions of dollars and the multi-millions in the hotel group. And then this all other was, I'm like, this is not working.
I'm an owner in the all other.
Dude, what else?
Yeah.
This is so out of order for what we do. Decision point. This is fact. What else was in the all other category? Do you even know what was else in there?
No, I really don't. It was that. I think they had some flower business and just some other odds and ends that they just kind of threw in there, and they were all doing poorly. So it kind of shook me up. Neiman's called me 3 times within maybe 2 years of, what are you doing there? When are you coming home?
Yeah.
The first time I went up to Miss Hunt and said, look, this thing's losing a lot of money and not quite what I thought it was going to be. And, I've got this offer to go back and be a divisional VP. And she said, well, look, Crawford, we're in this, so please don't go. And I said, okay, Ms. Hunt, I'll stick around. The second offer was, okay, they're not going to call me anymore. This is going to be it. And then I got the third time, more or less the same thing. And I know it's over.
Once I say no this time, I'm burning the boats.
And we were starting to make progress. But what happened, is that I had this opportunity that came up. Neiman's was bought by General Cinema. And when they got in, they fired all the executives. Maybe a good thing I didn't go, right?
Yeah.
But when they didn't put Stanley on the new board, Stanley Marcus. And so I picked the phone up and said, Mr. Stanley, I'm here at he knew where I was. And he came out to Beverly Hills every month, and we'd have lunch up in the Zodiac. So I really knew him quite well.
Yeah.
And so I said, would you help me? And he said, you bet. He moved his office over to the Crescent. We met every day. We had espressos at his place or mine or lunch. New York a couple of times, and he wasn't young. I mean, he was 78 or 80, and but he was a Harvard Mensa, a showman. He built Neiman's. We had I have thousands of letters. I'm going to write a book someday. I'll tell you about that later.
Yeah.
But it won't be so much about that too. That's another great story. But anyway, so we talked about everything, how to build a business one brick at a time, qualities remembered long after price is forgotten, why you chase luxury products as opposed to, markdowns and sell things. And he coined it this way. He said, well, Crawford, who do you want to be? And I'm like, okay, well, what are you talking about? And he said, well, do you want to be a discounter? I said, no, sir. I mean, I grew up at Neiman's, but Beverly Hills was the #1 luxe store in the company, first $100 million company selling expensive things to wealthy people in Beverly Hills. And that's what I want to do here. That's what I know. And he goes, okay, then that's where we're going to get furs and jewels and the whole thing. I said, let's go. Well, we literally were doing $2 million, losing $2 million. That's what I saw. And, oh, great. So I completely started over, fired everybody in the building but one person. Went to the
Stanley Korshak.
Yes. Went to the board after the first board meeting. After the meeting was over, went back around to the president of the board and said, look, I can't be a part of this. The consultants were still taking their fees. And they were, I knew some of them, but they were really not so credible. I said, look, they've got to go. They're just in the way, and they're just taking money from you and you don't need them. And plus the direction they were going in was all wrong. And they said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, I'd just get rid of him. He said, okay. And is there anybody else? I said, yeah, everybody in the building but one. He said, okay. So I went over Monday. It's kind of bloody Monday. Canned pretty much everybody.
How many people was that?
Probably 50.
Wow.
And so, and then started over one brick at a time, building people that I knew from Neiman, started picking them off. And, we got that set. And then we started growing. And, we got to 5 million, into 8 million, and 12 million, and into 15 million, and then to 18 million. And we got to 22 million, and Neiman's is now starting to pay attention because their story had been they're going out of business.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't work. Are you going to go work for them? Are you kidding me? They're going to be gone in 5 minutes.
Right.
Mrs. Hunt had plenty of staying power as we were losing money the first time, but now we're making money and things are pretty good. And so Mr. Stanley would come in to see me often, and I remember this one moment he walks in, and we'd had hundreds of discussions about many different things, aspects of retail. This time it was, what's in the way of you doing business today? And I, well, glad you asked. Now what's starting to happen is Neiman's is blocking me from getting
the brands.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, like who? And I said, well, Donna Karen. And he goes, well, and I'm sitting at my desk, and he's at the big table in my office, and he goes, well, do you have her number?
You knew that was coming.
Yeah.
And I said, well, yes, sir. My Rolodex. And back then I had this old...
The Rolodex is fantastic. If you don't know what it is,
Rolodex,
look it up.
yeah.
It was power, baby.
There were no cell phones back then.
It was power, baby.
So I had it, pull the card out. He comes around and sits at my desk. I give him the number. He dials it and goes, this is Stanley Marcus for Donna Karen, please. And the assistant or whoever answers the phone goes, just one moment. Well, then if I'd called, she's busy, we'll get back to you. You wouldn't hear anything.
No.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So she gets on the phone and he goes, well, I'm here with this fine young man. He's the president of Stanley Korshak. He'd like to carry your line. Oh, Mr. Marcus, we'd love to sell him. Now, I'd already talked to the sales director 5 times, and he'd said,
no
get
thanks.
lost.
Yeah.
He said, when he said she'd sell him, he said, well, let me put him on. So I hop on. Hello, Miss Karen. It's so nice to talk to you. And thank you so much for agreeing to sell us. We're so proud and be excited to have it. And she said, well, let me have our sales director call you. I went, uh-oh. Yeah. So he did call, and we got the line. Well, I hung up the phone. We looked at each other, kind of do the high five, and started smiling and dialing. We got everybody.
Awesome.
That is when we really took off.
How old was Mr. Mark? He was in his 70s at that point?
He was in his 80s.
In his 80s when he was doing that for you.
Yeah, he was
incredible.
really upset with Neiman's.
Yeah.
He thought they'd turned,
They destroyed what he built.
I know, referred to them as a discounter and dress-up clothes.
Yeah.
That's how we talked.
Yeah.
And so our mantra was, we're going to get these big brands. We're not going to mark it down. And when we made buys, said, look, I'm not going to, I know you want me to buy these minimums. I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is sell it. We're never going to mark your product down.
Yeah.
We're going to build a brand the way it should be. And that's how we started out.
Yep.
And it started working.
Who is the one person you didn't fire? What was their first name, and why did you not fire him?
His name was Joe Riley, and he had come out of a little store here in town, and he was running and buying for the designer women's. And he was a great merchant, knew what he was doing, and a hard worker, knew what was going on, and he stayed and was a great ally and did a terrific job.
Give us one story of selling to a star in Beverly Hills. I know you got 1,000. Give us one.
Well, this is a little scandalous, okay?
Okay, all right.
Okay, so
we need some scandal.
We like scandalous,
we haven't had enough on decision points. We need scandal.
We'd have these walkthroughs. So I'm with a couple of other visual and one of the other merchants, and we do these rounds, and it's 4 floors, 200,000 feet. And I'm walking through, and one of the couture sellers said, "Hey, Crawford, come." One of the stars from the wife of JR was in the fitting room. Okay.
Sue Ellen.
Sue Ellen?
Yeah.
And which one was
I
that?
don't remember. I
only know like I don't even know.
No, that was Sue Ellen. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, I didn't know.
I like Bobby's wife better, by the way.
Your knowledge is way ahead of mine.
Well, I didn't really know her.
Right.
But I just found following this salesperson back to the back, and she opens the door, and she's standing there kind of half dressed in this amazing gown, and she's falling out of it. And she goes, "Hey, well, Crawford, do you like my gown?" Well, like my chin hit the ground and bounced back up, and I'm trying to
Gather
take in what
yourself. Yeah.
I mean,
Are you wearing a gown? I'm not sure.
but keep in mind, I went out there at 28.
Yeah.
I came back at 33. So, I'm married.
Yeah.
And I've been married now for 46 years to the same beautiful,
Congratulations.
skinny, blonde, blue-eyed tennis player from college. He taught me to play tennis. I mean, she's great. But anyway, so that's another great story we can go into later. But
It's awesome. And we will.
Yeah. So anyway, that's one of the funny, but there are many others of Animal House guys coming in. This is kind of interesting. I remember O.J. Simpson came in, and back then, he was this bigger than life guy, and he came in with Marcus Allen and another running back from USC, and they rode up all the escalators. The entire store stopped. Everybody was just gawking at them, and they just rode the escalator and rode it back down. I remember another time Joe Theismann came through. He was walking around with the lady that was the co-star for That's Incredible. I don't remember her name.
Yeah.
And so they're walking around the store together, and he's walking out, and it's a Saturday, and I'm going, "Hey, Joe, I mean, what are you, doing here today? And don't you have a game tomorrow night?" He said, "No, the game's Monday night, Crawford." And I said, "Oh, okay." And he introduces me to her, and they get into some fancy car that was, about this high. I don't know how he got in it. It was so small. But I just had another thought about cars. So I'm Phil Miller, the CEO for Neiman's, called me up to his office, and this is a great story.
How long ago was this?
Well, I was 28. So
you were out there.
All right, you were still out there.
No, I'm still in Dallas.
Okay.
I'm the men's clothing buyer.
Okay.
So as a men's clothing buyer, Neiman's sends you that we're opening 2 stores a year for about 5 years, so that you go do a culture talk to the employees.
Yep.
So I'm out there as the men's culture talk guy. And so my wife goes with me. We stay at the La Jolla Beach and Tennis Club. We're opening up San Diego. We are now doing our drill, forehands. She's left-handed, so we're hitting forehands down, backhands. Phil Miller walks by with his wife and sees me out there playing with Jan. He goes, "Hey, Crawford, I didn't know you were a tennis player. My wife and I are tennis players. Let's play tonight." And I went, "Okay." And so I don't think he realized he didn't play much. His wife played, probably USTA or, whatever, but she was probably a 3.5 or 4.0.
Yeah.
My wife's a 5.0 pro. And I'm probably a 4.5, and so we basically realized we need to split up. And so I'm playing with him against the girls, and he realized what was going on. So afterwards, he said, "Well, Crawford, let's play tomorrow morning." So I played 3 mornings with him. Came back to Dallas. He called me up to his office and started talking about how much he enjoyed playing tennis, but how much he enjoyed getting to know me, and felt some competitive something there anyway. And he said, "We've got a lot of issues in LA, and I want you to go out there." I didn't want to go out there. I said, we love Dallas, have a lot of friends. We live in Island Park. And that's very kind of you, but I'll wait on North Park. I'll run downtown, but I don't want to go to California.
Yeah.
And his exact words were, "If you're on the fence, I want you to fly out." In other words, you're going.
Yeah.
So I went. It was the best thing that ever happened.
Yeah.
Opened your eyes to the rest of the world, because Dallas is everything starts in California, New York, and comes here.
Absolutely.
As much as we think, and that's changed a little
It is
bit.
changing.
Yeah, the
It's
world
changing.
is a little more flat in that
But back
sense.
then, 100% correct.
Yeah. Where are you from? Where were you
Okay,
raised?
great question. So I grew up in a small town of 38,000 people called Rome, Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay, Northwest Georgia. It's a beautiful town, beautiful place. Father was a World War II vet, marched across France when he was 18 years old, walked into Saarbrücken where the Germans were giving up. The war's over. It was December of 1944. So the invasion had already occurred. They've already moved, and they're now pushing into Germany. And he walks into Saarbrücken, and Hitler told the Germans to defend it to the last man. This is sacred ground. World War I, all these Germans were buried there. So they ambushed the 70th and killed like 40% of them. And so he was shot in the leg, which was his golden ticket home. And he was able to come back, finish up medical school, became a surgeon, met my mom, and in Atlanta at Emory Medical School, moved up to Rome, Georgia.
Yep.
And the cool thing about Rome, and I'll give you a little more about this, that there's a lot of Civil War history there. Two rivers come together, form another river, and there's a hill called Rose Hill that kind of is the center of Rome. And Rome has 7 hills in it, and it's the sister city to Rome, Italy. And there's a statue that the Italians gave to Rome, Georgia. And I don't know if we gave them something, but maybe we did. Anyway, so on top of this hill, there's this big antebellum home built before the Civil War. Sherman, when he left Chattanooga, came down to Rome and then went down to Atlanta and burned it.
Oh, wow.
When he came to Rome, he occupied this house. And there's a picture, I've got it on my phone, of him with his soldiers at a big table and the horses, and they're gathered around this table, and it's 312 East 4th Avenue. That's where I grew up.
Wow.
So when my father and mom moved to Rome, the home was owned by 2 families, and they were in the grocery business. And so the story is that the father had died, so the grandmother is still alive in the house, and the kids are fighting over who's going to get it. And she sold it to Dr. Crawford Brock. And so we moved into this thing as little squirt kids, grew up there, and it's kind of cool because, Rome is 38,000 people, same families.
Yeah.
Just many stories about all the people there, but I was in the class of 72.
Okay.
There was an all-boys school called Darlington, started in 1905. 2 colleges, one of them Berry College, which has the largest campus in the world.
Berry.
Martha Berry started it, and she got benefactors, and of one was the Fords who built cars.
Yep.
Gave them the money for it. But so Rome is a really kind of a cool place, but Darlington is where I think when you're in a small town, everybody knows everybody, and you're a doctor's kid and your dad's a surgeon and he does a lot of cancer surgery, a lot of trauma stuff. People would stop you, and your dad and all this stuff.
Yep.
As my brother's up there now is a surgeon, he's getting the same treatment.
Yep.
And as his son and my son-in-law are both doctors up there also.
How many siblings do you have?
I have 4,
You have
3
4?
others, 4 of us.
Okay.
So my little brother went to W&L, then Emory Medical School, and he's up in Rome, but he is now finishing his career up. And the dean of the medical school approached him about, would you be the dean of the medical school? And so he was kind of wanting to wind down, and he finally agreed a couple of years later. So he's now transitioning out of doing his surgery. His son's there, who's now stepping in. So kind of a cool story about that. But big part of my life and who I am today occurred there.
Okay. How and why?
In 1971, we won the Georgia High School State Soccer Championship. Pretty much the 11 guys, to my knowledge, never came out. We won every game in the state championship. Our English teacher was our coach. And so he really didn't know anything about soccer. He just read everything and faked us.
Yeah.
And a lot of the analogy of what happened and how we ended up winning all these games. And we're just a little country boys from Rome, Georgia. And we played all the 6A big schools in Atlanta, Westminster and Lovett, and all these other schools. I didn't even know who they were. Briarcliff, who's who we played in the finals. But they probably didn't expect us to do as well as we did. But part of the reason that happened was because of what he did. Have you guys seen the 1980 Olympic gold medal hockey team, Miracle on Ice?
Of course.
Okay, there's so much in there that parallels what happened to us. Who do you play for? They all went to different universities. Now they're coming together, and he ran them to death. And he would ask them, who do you play for? And they'd say, I play for you, coach, the U at the U, or Boston, not for the United States of America. Our coach ran us to death. And he would tell us constantly, you guys are mediocre. You just mediocre. Y'all are no good. And he talked about Greek mythology, I don't want any hubris on the team. And so you got a bunch of guys that are World War II sons, oldest sons, all of us. And so we had grown up with knowing that our dads had done that. Humble people, smart people, and, not so great athletes that we were going to go play in a D1 college place.
Yep.
None of us did. But we all, if you look at the 30-year later picture of who these guys became, I'm getting chills thinking about it. Because they're all married to the same people. We're all married 46 years. I've been married 46 years to the same beautiful wife as these guys are. And they went on, 5 became doctors, 2 the Naval Academy, 2 took over their family businesses, 1 became a retailer in Dallas. It's like every one of them were just solid, great people, as were all the guys in our class. And the class of 72, which I was a junior. Only 2 juniors, I think, started on this team. We've been honored now so many times, the class of 72, for so much of this giving back to the school. We have the highest annual fund participation. We have more guys on the board, more guys president of the board. The president of the school at our 45th reunion came and asked me to chair a fundraiser for just our class. And I said, well, how much did you want to raise? He said, well, $600,000. So we raised $1 million. And so he's just blown away. And so it's now a standard. They're trying to get to the other classes to do the same thing, which is really hard to do. I guess. So anyway, he came back out here. The president of the school did a couple of weeks ago and said, Crawford, we're having the 100th anniversary of the school in October, and we'd like to recognize you as a distinguished alumni. Would you accept that, and would you come back in October? And I was like, wow, I got very emotional because I know what I know about what happened with that English teacher, how it changed me, and how I talked to the people that work for me, and I'm kind of demanding, but it's not. It's fun, but it's like what I went through. And I was sick. I loved the running. I weighed 150 pounds. I never got tired. And if you go listen to Gino, the coach of the women's Connecticut,
I don't know how to say his last name,
women's basketball team, he talks about the difference between outstanding and elite, or exceptional or elite, is the elite people don't get tired. They don't give up. Everyone on his team was like that. Nobody's given up. We were and in the finals of that, we were down 2-0, and they missed a PK. And the reason that we were down is because we'd been playing in the mud, and it had rained every day, and there was only 5 yards of dry dirt on the soccer field. And our English teacher, who's smart, goes, hey, look, Crawford, 2-touch it, send it to the wing, like hockey, send it to the corner, and we'll cross it in and score goals. And we were killing people playing in the dry dirt because you couldn't fight it down the middle. It get stuck in the mud, and it was just big mud cake. And they'd roll the turf. We showed up. It was like playing on concrete. And they brought dirt in and rolled it. So we're coming up from Rome, Georgia. It's an hour-plus drive down to Atlanta to play the finals. So we show up, and there's no mud. The whole way down this rickety bus, our coach, Clint, Sean, is telling us, Crawford, remember 2-touch? Well, yes, sir. And so we get there. Well, anyway, so we stumbled initially getting back to fundamentals. And I'd found out 30 years later, this is one of those don't mention names, but a fellow started who shouldn't have started. I think he was a great football player and a linebacker. And in the mud, you need guys like that. In the dry dirt, you need somebody quick, fast, and in a hurry. And he put that guy in the second half, or we did, because our coach walked in at the halftime and said, this was halftime against the Swedes, when the coach for the 1980 team walks in, and who are we playing, Rammer? Sweden. Yeah, in the Olympics. And what's the matter with you? I got the coach. The doc says I got a bruise. I got bruised on the legs a long ways from the heart. Put your gear on. Our coach walked in and did something like that, and he used the F word and said, I've never been so effing humiliated in my whole life. I'm going to go sit with since you quit, I'm going to go sit with your parents. I quit. And he walked out in 15 seconds, said that. We're sitting in there exhausted, getting beat. We'd never lost. Collie Powers, who I give credit for going to the Naval Academy, actually went to the University of Georgia, but he learned how to fly jets and became a pilot. The guy that did go to the Naval Academy, who they were like best friends, came back, and they both hired by Southwest. Southwest liked these Naval Academy guys because they could land these buses from flying these, Ferraris.
Yeah.
Anyway, he stands up, who never talked, never said a word. He just delivered and said, kind of a Belushi scene in Animal House, stands up. I'm not losing these guys. And he get off this bench and he starts ramming it into a locker. And I mean, in 2 minutes, we go back out on the field and we beat the daylights out of them, scored 2 goals in 5 minutes and crushed them. And then I know it's a great story, but that mentality is who I am. And so there's 2 other things that go with that are kind of interesting. One of them, there's a book called The Great Santini. Pat Conroy, who's written a bunch of books, wrote this book, and it's about this Southern family that he's the father is a Navy aviator. And he flies like F-14s, and he's moved his family all over the country, and they're now like in Savannah, it looks like. And the kids are lined up on the steps, and the son, the oldest son, and then the 2 daughters, and then the little son, and he's talking to him like they're at his platoon or something, and he's saying, look, and I want to apologize to you kids for moving you all over the country, but you're Meachams. His last name was Bull Meacham, and Meachams are the best students. They're the best athletes. They're thoroughbreds. Meacham kids chew rocks while other kids eat cotton candy. Now go out there and teach these crackers who Meachams are. I talk to our team that work for me and that you're Meachams. You're a Meacham. And here's what a Meacham is. Made them watch the clip, watch the movie. Miracle on Ice, there are scenes in that I want you to know, this is where I'm coming from. When I start pushing you, you're giving me 100%. You're going to make my job real easy. I don't want 100%. I want the best players. This is the 1980 team. He had the team picked before they got started, and this talent had been brought in, but he didn't want any of them. He knew who he wanted. He'd been a 3-time national champion for a hockey team. He knew who the best players were, or the ones he wanted. And so he picked guys that were going to be like Rome, Georgia boys who, yes, sir, you want us to run a few more laps? Fine. You think you can get us tired? That's not going to happen. You want 150%? We're going to give it to you.
Yeah,
not 100. That's who works for me. What I talk about to our team is you're Meacham. I don't like superstars that are lazy.
Yeah.
And if you're a superstar and you're so great, prove it.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go be prima donna around me, I don't want you on the team. You're out of here.
Yeah.
And I tell everybody publicly, I'm hunting down superstars, and I use this guy's last name. And I'm hunting them down, and if you're in the building, I want you out. And if you see one who's acting that way in your area, you call me because I'll go down there and deal with it immediately. I'm not going to have it.
Yep.
And so everybody kind of gets along because, when you finally do eliminate a guy like that, they come to you and say, what took you so long?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I woke up years ago to 6 people in the building that I honestly realized, I didn't know that I wasn't calling them this at that moment. I just didn't like them.
Yeah.
And I just knew they were kind of lazy.
Yeah.
And skirting. And well, other people were working hard. So I got HR, got security. I said, look, I'm going to fire these 6 people today. I said, what? I said, yeah, I'm in Canada. Why? So I don't like them.
Yeah.
And if I don't like them, nobody likes them.
Right.
And so one afternoon, we canned them all. Every area came back to us, thank you, what took you so long?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got this, and I'd rather have try-harders like the commercial, we're not number one, we try harder.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Try-harders, win all the time. You guys know Jason Garrett.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Okay, he's articulate, smart guy, Princeton graduate, coach, quarterback. And so my life peaked literally at 16 when we won this soccer thing. And I talked to it about everybody. And I bring this up, it's me. It's who I am, my culture. And so I'm telling Jason this because he'd been invited. We had Brunello Cucinelli coming. We had this really fancy dinner upstairs, and we're downstairs in the men's new Cucinelli shop. It's got a bar. It's really beautiful. And I'm telling Jason, I said, Jason, it's so fun to be around a guy like you. And, I peaked at, 16 and, this is as good as it got. And he goes, Crawford, I funny you say, I peaked at 13. I said, really? He said, yeah, we won the all-city junior midget football championship in someplace in New Jersey. I said, really? You were 13? He said, yeah. I said, well, Jason, were you the quarterback? Yeah, I was quarterback. I said, Jason, you did not peak at 13. You became the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys and then their coach, so knock it off. So we start talking, and we get into this amazing discussion. And Jason says, you know, Crawford, when you're doing the draft and you're picking these players, you know, are they the right height? Did they weigh the right amount? Are they strong? Do they have big hands? And so they meet all of the specs of that. Okay. In my world, is that, you know, we're in the look business, so do they have manners or they, you know, have all that? What I'm looking for is not that. Everybody's got that. What I'm looking for is who are you? Where are you from? How'd you grow up? What is your grit level? You know, did you have to work for it? Were you raised by your mom, your parents? Give me some story on that. And so he gave the story of Dak, and he talked about, you know, Dak got a DWI, and right after he was winning everything at the college he played at in Louisiana, I think it was. Mississippi State. And he was a superstar, and he was going to become a great player in the NFL for the Cowboys, as he did. But this was kind of like this grit character thing that Jason was worried about. So he brought him over to Valley Ranch or wherever they play, and did the Q&A, gave him some complicated stuff, and he's up to work. And then he wanted to kind of tell me about this DWI. I mean, how could you do that? I mean, you know, that's a big, you know, flag. And he said, well, here's what happened. I had 2 beers and celebrate, And he goes, okay. Got him back doing this complicated thing on the board. I think he seemed like he was explaining this complicated stuff, and he'd given him a whole lot of these things. So he had to remember, you know, all the stuff. And he was doing a good job with that. And then he asked him, you know, 10 minutes later, hey, Jason, Dak, I'm just kind of thinking, well, how did you end up at that? Like another little part of the story, but just give it to me again, you know? And so he, okay, I thought I gave it to you, but here's da-da-da. And he goes, okay. And then, you know, a little bit later, he asked him a 3rd time. And now Dak turns and said, look, Jason, I gave you the story. This is what happened. There is nothing else to it. And that's when he knew Dak had that grit leadership thing. And, you know, I related to it because when in my little bitty 16-year-old experience with this coach, honestly, I don't know now if it was, you know, you do all that running when we grow up. I mean, I did every 10K race in Beverly Hills, did the Jimmy Stewart Marathon twice, played in the Beverly Hills Open, runner-up in the finals, lost to a UCLA couple. I mean, I've been tired, and you get to that euphoric high, you know, when you push yourself like that. And even here, we did all that cycling and then did a couple of tries and then did the duathlon, the run, bike, run, you know, do a 10K, 20 miles or 25 miles, then a 5K run or 10K, 6K run. And so all that stuff, you get this kind of runner's high thing. I knew kind of what that felt like, right? And so I'd been there and used to that fatigue thing. So, you know, listening to Jason talk about that grit and being able to push through that and that kind of leadership thing that comes out of all that, you know, is sort of just back to in the book that I'm going to write, it's not going to be about all the things that have happened to me, Father of the Year, Beverly Hills, what's now happened at Korshak. And we've been recognized for lots of things, including all this stuff, and flying to New York to get this lifetime achievement in retail, all this stuff. I mean, there's stuff hanging on my wall. I can't remember what it is, but it's really irrelevant. You know, in the end, I want to be known as that little guy that graduated from Darlington School in Rome, Georgia, who ran his guts out on a soccer field that beat all these Atlanta guys that we showed up, they were going to smoke us, and we beat them. And it's that person and these other 10 guys that I was playing with that I'm getting emotional thinking about it now. One of the guys, Bill Kelly, I talked to quite a bit, I'm heading out next Thursday to the boat. I'm going to be down there for, you know, the boat's going to be there for a month and a half. I'm probably going to be back and forth for 10 weeks. Not all at once, but he's coming down. And I've got another guy that a really close friend, Peter Rowe, you may not know him, but he played at TCU as a soccer player. He works out every day, and I wish I could. But to sit around now on the bow and have a margarita at 5 o'clock in the afternoon after we've been spearfishing and just done tons of stuff, because these two guys are active, and I don't want to be down there unless I'm with somebody who's, it's not about the chef and the great food. To me, it's about, we're going to swim around that island, and it's 2 miles. Y'all ready?
Yeah.
And I want people like that. And so Bill's like that. And so is Peter's like that. But to go relive, because I left Rome, and I don't see these guys every day. And just replay those moments. And, I'm excited about that. Yeah.
How do you get from Rome into retail?
Okay. So I was in the business school in Tallahassee, Florida State, and we did case studies. And, there's a book called The Paths of Profits, and it had Kentucky Fried Chicken, and it had Coca-Cola, and it had Neiman's and somebody else. And we did these, you saw problems with all this other marketing stuff and all this. And so I'm graduating. So I wrote letters to those guys. Didn't hear from anybody but Neiman's. And they had a guy that traveled the country and interviewed people, and we started talking. And, really, we spent probably 2 minutes talking about Neiman's and stuff. All he wanted to know, I think what he wanted was me to come play on his soccer team here in Dallas. They, those league stuff. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Yeah. He was looking for a ringer,
he wanted
a side employee, but a ringer on the soccer field.
Yeah, he did. I think that's what it was. But anyway.
So you go to Florida State.
Yeah.
You graduate
May,
and you come to work.
The training program didn't start till August.
Okay.
And so I remember I showed up with Craig Ennis, and I said, first I go home, and my dad's like, well, son, what are your plans? I said, well, I'm going to work for Neiman's. I'm going to be moving to Dallas. And I remember him saying, well, look, I don't want you laying around the pool all summer. See if they'll take you sooner. Okay, well, he was not a badass dad. He was highly intelligent. He was a Mensa. And I remember when I drove myself to college, I had an MG. And my parents didn't come down they didn't pack me up.
Yeah.
It got shipped, and I drove myself.
Yeah.
As did my brother, and as did my sisters. And so I remember him coming out as everybody's crying. You're driving in the driveway, 18 years old. I just turned 18. I was kind of young for my age. He says, son, I know you'll never be back. Now, how he knew that, I don't know, but he said that to me. It was kind of an emotional thing. Like, yeah, Dad, I'll be back. Never came back. I mean, I went skiing with my little brother in December, went home or somebody, I think I came on Thanksgiving. And then when I graduated from college, we were members of the surf club down in Ponte Vedra and had a place down there. So I went down there and worked during the summer. So I never came back. And then graduated. I came home for a month maybe, and then left and came out here. And I thought I was on vacation when I came out. Big August, 100 degrees, big blue sky. And you're going to come pay me? I'm just happy to be here.
So your career, you do Neiman's from 22 to 33?
That's correct. 22,
you've literally...
No, 22 to 33, that's correct.
Basically 2 companies that you have worked for and or now obviously own the second one.
That's correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tell us about your wife. Where do y'all meet? And
okay, that's a great story too. She was a high school valedictorian.
Where?
In Charleston, West Virginia. No, in West Virginia, Charleston, West Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah. And her dad built 4 indoor courts because the weather is really bad up there. Year-round, you can't play tennis.
Yeah.
They brought in a pro from, it's either Michigan or Connecticut. I can't remember, but he moved down there. And so she was a little bitty. So he got her young, and there were a couple of other guys that came through it, and he turned out these amazing players. So she won the Southern Open, Southern Close, Ohio Valley, all these things. I remember going to her house, and there was a wall as big as that were full of trophies and huge things and all this stuff. I mean, it was pretty overwhelming. I had a couple of things.
Yeah. So where are y'all meeting?
So that's where I'm getting to. So I'm down there on a tennis court, and I was a hacker. I played in the Coosa Country Club in August, and I'd beat a couple of people, but I wasn't really a tennis player, although I'd played a little bit. And the tennis team for Florida State were all these really cute, blonde-headed, blue-eyed girls that were really cute, and they wore these dresses that had ruffle panties. And so she's over there with this girl named Sally Sweppy from North Carolina, was her partner, her doubles partner, and they were hitting one tennis ball, kaboom, 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 and we're over here with the fraternity brother, and we're knocking them all over the place. And then we realized they could pick them up. They kind of pick them up, and so that was interesting. Let's hit some more over there. And so we met on the tennis court, and then my roommate, Mark Friedrich, who was from Maryland, who's a really cool guy, and was dating her roommate. And so have you asked her yet, Crawford? No, I hadn't asked her yet. Well, have you asked her yet? No, I hadn't asked her yet. So we're now someplace, and Janet's there. And he's in front of her, he goes, have you asked her yet? I said, no, I hadn't asked her yet. Because I knew this was the one. I want to have fun before I start getting locked up. I knew it was coming. I think it was that first, first time you knew it was going to be together. And so,
how do you finally ask her? And what do y'all do on the first date?
She didn't drink. She was on the tennis team. And so we go to some tiki bar thing. We have tiki bowls. Have you ever heard of those?
Yeah.
So it's like sushi.
Yeah.
And so they put all these rum things in the tiki thing, and I've got this long straw. And I noticed that she put it to her lips, but she wasn't drinking it. And so I went and I accused her of not drinking. I said, Jen, I don't think you're drinking. I'm thinking I'm about to have the whole thing. That's not going to be pretty. And so
that's not good for me or for you.
No. Several of her sorority sisters were there. And there was going to be there's another place called the Silver Dollar, which is where all the Greeks went. Like SMU. Did you go to SMU, Scott?
No, I went to Baylor.
Okay, so at SMU, there's a place there that my youngest daughter went to SMU, the green elephant or the pink elephant or whatever. Everybody goes there. So this was a place like that. And it had a band or some DJ. And so we walk out to the car, my cars and we hadn't eaten. We just had this tiki thing and with all these friends. And so I went over and opened the door and I kissed her and her knees buckled. That's my story. So I knew I had her. And so we'd stop with 2 or 3 other couples. And when you have a guy's apartment, we didn't have any glass. I had a coffee cup and a blender. And so back then, you ate at the house, but you never ate in your apartment, never. And so we stopped there and made margaritas or some drink, but all we had was a coffee cup. And back in the day, I must have known I was going to be in retail because I had no socks, kind of boat shoe things. I forget what they call them. Topsiders, khakis, white button-down shirt. And like it is now, because that's what we wore in high school, was button-down shirts and gray slacks. And so we walked down to this place, the couples, and I had this cup in my hand, and I'm finishing up, and I just put it in my back pocket. And we walk in, and the guy goes, hey, Crawford, is it a $5 cover charge? Well, I'm kind of lit up after a tiki bowl and margarita. I said, well, that's great, but we're not paying it. Come on, Janet. And so the guy chases us up to the bar. He owes us $5. Well, he works here. He worked here this summer for a month, or whatever. Said, don't worry about him. So, okay, I pull out the cup. Hey, fill it up. Well, I drank beer. Anyway, so that started us dancing, and I just had a great time.
Y'all have children?
Yeah, we have 3 daughters.
Okay. Yeah. What are they up to these days?
Okay, so great kids. They all look like their mom. Tall, skinny blondes. The oldest is a runner, a tennis player, and works out all the time. Married to a guy, Ryan Friend, who's the tennis player I was telling you about from Oklahoma. He's now president of a bank here in Dallas. And she works a little bit, not a lot. She's got 2 boys. She's a girl mom. She really should have had 2 girls. Yep. Yeah. I don't think she knows how to handle the guys so well. Yeah. My number 2 daughter was a tremendous soccer player. And, I'm just going to speed this up, but, as a little kid, I picked her up in a YMCA. Yeah. So, and taught them, in the YMCA, back when we were playing, they used to report the scores in the Park Cities People or the Park Cities News, one of those. And so, you can see we won our games, and so they're points, and scores reported. And so we end up playing the really good team from Highland Park in one of the last games. Well, we'd gotten so good because of just, know the game. You can, it's pretty easy.
Yeah, technique, strategy.
So I don't know I think we played like 4 quarters, go rest for 10 minutes or 5, whatever. So we scored 10 goals in the first quarter. And this guy's yelling about, I don't know who you got on your team, Crawford, but I'm like, just kind of, settle down. Anyway, so Laura goes on and plays for another group. Peter Rowe, the guy I'm telling you about, is coming in, his daughter. And so Peter played in college. So now you got 2 guys and another guy who's a good friend, Tom Colvin, who's a lawyer, one of 4 brothers, just a great guy. But he really got it. And so they start playing in this other league. I don't even know what it is, but it's kind of after the Y. It's not club yet, which is thing. So they won the Tournament of Champions, 150 teams. Take a 360 map all the way around Dallas. I'm talking all the Fort Worth, all of Plano, and the other side, South, everywhere that had a team that won a tournament came, 150 teams. And so Laura's team won it, the whole thing. Then she rolled into Sting, club soccer, and they won, first 2 years won every game, and essentially the unannounced national champions.
Wow.
And won everything. And then she went on to play in college. Well, in high school at ESD, they won 4 state championships, beat Hockaday and some other schools. And by the way, my kids are very humble. I'm bragging on them. They would never tell you anything they've done. Never.
Yeah.
They'd like their mom. You'd never know she was a high school valedictorian. You'd never know she was a top 10. You'd never know anything except, God, she's pretty good.
Yeah.
She doesn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And even today, I do all the talking. Anyway, so Laura was like that, just, 1-4. And anyway, so, and she just enjoyed the game. And I told her, I said, Laura, we're not going to go watch you play in college. We may try to come down to some, but we're not going to, go to all the games. And then, they'd go play everybody in California. They'd go play everybody in the Midwest. They'd go play everybody in the South. And anyway, she was one of the starters, and they won all the stuff. And she met her husband, who was a high school, college quarterback. He never started as a quarterback, kind of like what happened to Brady. Mm-hmm. He went on, did 5 years of cancer research at UT Southwestern, then 4 years of medical school, then did his residency with my brother up in Rome, Georgia.
Oh, cool.
And never came back. That's not good.
Yeah.
Because Laura, she was working for me when he was doing his cancer research in medical school. And, she's has a really nice way. When you're on a team, you sort of get and see the best part of people, always. Mm-hmm. Laura always saw the goodness in people and was able to motivate them from the get-go, and was not afraid to do anything. So if she wouldn't ask you to do something she wouldn't do.
Yeah.
One of those type. And so they loved her.
Yeah.
And she could be running a place. She was heir apparent in my book.
Yeah.
So she's not coming back. So she has 2 great kids, a boy and a girl. And their daughter, was picking daisies, did not care about soccer, did not care about any lacrosse, didn't care about, she's a girly girl who's bouncing around doing this cheer and stuff. She'll be a cheerleader and all that junk. And her son is going to be a brute. And then Helen, my youngest, went to SMU, married her college sweetheart, Leighton, who was a New Orleans refugee. His family's from the UK. He's got great manners. He's a great dad. All the guys are great dads. They're just
great.
Phenomenal. And they have beautiful children. And Helen looks more like her mom than any of them. And her daughter has a little SMU cheerleader outfit. And, she's stinking cute. And her son is just so polite. So they're all doing it. And Helen still works.
So I got a question for you. When you're training the team at Stanley Korshak,
yep,
culture is a big word.
Right, culture is.
What do you train them, educate them? How do they start to create that experience and that relationship with the customer?
Honestly, every morning with the senior leadership, and it could be 10 minutes, it may be a half an hour, going over stuff and repeating things and talking about Meachams and that other word that I won't mention, but superstars.
Yep.
And talking about what's coming up and what events are going on and just kind of checking in with them. And in some cases, an area is not doing as well. And so we talk about it in front of everybody because there's other people that are, I'm having success doing this. And so there's a lot of sharing going on. So that when we interview people, we interview them 3 times. And we try to interview them with 3 different people. And I like to see them come back because is what I just saw what it really is. Can you come back in a week? Yeah. And then, so they're getting that kind of vetting. And then I think when they jump in, we pretty quickly figure out, are they going to be able to adapt and make it? But a lot of times you kind of just go back and look at where they're coming from. Who have you worked for? And I know they'll be successful. And then there are other things that I can't exactly define so much, but I like people that walk fast in our business. Some people just automatically gracious and very serving, and get to go above and beyond all the time. And some don't. Bridal's a complicated area, and you got a lot of detail. And so you got these daughters getting married, and daddy is a little girl, and don't mess up the wedding here. Like the dress doesn't fit, or I don't care if she gained or lost a lot of weight. We got to get that right, okay? Whatever it takes. I learned early on, we've been in bridal for over 30 plus years, 32 or 3 years. By the way, we had it in LA and got rid of it because there's too much detail for a store that big to manage, in my opinion. You got to, and so the potential for catastrophe was there. So I remember this new group started, the entire Neiman's team left. I don't know why, but they came over to us. And I didn't ask them to. They just showed up. But they, when there's smoke, there's fire, So when you get a call on a complaint in bridal, it's immediately everybody's on red alert.
Yeah, it's escalate.
The cavalry shows up.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And so I met with the leader of that group who's coming out of Neiman. She's really good. I mean, she's better than anybody ever had.
All right, I got a question for you.
Okay.
So, the retail business has ebbed and flowed and, ups and downs and, luxury, and then, you cycle with men not wearing suits and ties anymore. But I feel like in Dallas, we're in a really great spot.
We are.
I mean, everybody's moving here. And you said earlier, it always started on the coast and then it came here.
Yep.
That's kind of changing. What is the impact of, and I won't mention the firm, but big firm that's coming from New York, bringing a bunch of senior execs, and what is that doing to your business?
Our business is on fire.
I bet.
We are doubling.
Yeah.
Across the board.
Yeah.
Every single area. It's like I've never seen growth like this. Even in LA, we were doing 28 million when I got there, 100 million when I left. It's comparable to that. We're riding a wave, and you look at what's happening in the landscape.
Yeah.
And I remember Stanley Marcus telling me that competition is a good thing, Crawford. I'm like, okay, yeah, because it makes everybody better. I get that. I don't I hate losing more than I enjoy winning.
Yeah.
Okay. So competition shows up, I'm going to go whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And so we've reacted to that and are just benefiting from that. We sell, expensive things to wealthy people. Quality's remembered long after price is forgotten. Stanley talking. And I think clients are walking around, and I hear it every day too, Scott. They walk in, they look up and, wow, this isn't a strip mall store. This is really beautiful. A lot of art hanging everywhere. And they go, and this is beautiful, Crawford, but you have the nicest people. And so not only do we carry really fine things, and we've solved all these little small problems, like Highland Park Village is a great place. Know Ray really well.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take credit for something, and I think he'd remember and admit to it. I just saw him the other day. We were in the airport in Palm Beach. The mono brand, what was the phenomenon of that, was starting as he's now getting into Highland Park Village. And he and I were talking about moving Korshak over there. That didn't happen. And I remember the final meeting was when we walked into the Palomino. He came with his whole crew, and we're sitting in there. And he said, well, what do you think? I said, well, look, let me explain to you. Mom and pops are not going to make it at Highland Park. never look at the history. They're all gone. In
Yeah.
fact, they're all gone in Dallas. They're dying.
Yeah.
And so, but this is what's happening. All these big brands want to go mono brand. They want to open their own stores. You're the perfect venue. And so some that have left have gone to North Park, but in the end, they really want to go to Highland Park, even though rent's the highest and all this stuff, but it's a billboard.
That's right.
Okay. We decided, said, look, I don't care if you go ahead. And if you want to be in both places, that's fine too. We're just going to go work our clients, our relationships, and our hotels. And within 100 yards of me, there's 5 major hotels. And so we're seeing that crowd.
Well, what I love about what's going on with you and that whole part of Dallas, I mean, you've been there 38 years,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
who would have thought?
I know.
And then look at the growth, look at the buildings that were going up. We had an all-in meeting the other day, and the Mavs are playing the Clippers, and all the Clipper guys are in the lobby of the hotel, and like you've got that flow coming through there, and then the investment bank going in around the corner. I mean,
it's
brand new building going across the street from you,
and another apartment building.
Yeah,
John Goffin, and he's going to do another one in front of me.
And you're in the epicenter.
We are,
and it's really cool to see.
I can't remember who it was, but when I moved here 38 years ago, I'm talking to somebody whose son he's somebody I'm talking to, but his dad was, some big, huge developer, muckety muck. And so we're talking up there, and he was roughly my age, maybe a smidge older, and the Crescent, there's nothing around us. It's just shanty towns and nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, God, what have I got myself into here? And I'm start talking to him about, like, well, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, is this place going to make it? And he kind of thought for a minute, and he said, Crawford, this is a big structure. It's not going to go away. My guess is it's going to just grow and develop and be very successful. I remember Gabrielle coming in, and Gabrielle knew Laurie Harrison, Ms. Hunt's daughter, and we're talking, and he ended up in YPO with us. But he is saying, well, what do you think? I said, I don't know. He said, well, what do you think about this property? I said, I don't know. Look, I just think this place is exploding. Buy it.
Yeah.
And so we did.
Yeah.
As did all the stuff around us, was going through this huge transition.
It's interesting because the Crescent really is the
epicenter.
It's the anchor. It's the center point of everything that's going on in that whole area. And just really think it's awesome that you're in that spot.
Sometimes I think I've got a guardian angel, with choices to come out here to Dallas, to, this opportunity to leave Beverly Hills. How did I get out there? I mean, wow, so many. I mean, I could have been in St. Louis.
From Rome, Georgia.
Yeah, who'd have thought?
Beverly Hills, right?
Yeah.
And that segues perfectly, Crawford. I want us to kind of close our time with a topic, because it seems like it's going to, you talk about guardian angels. It sounds like to me, Stanley Marcus mentored you.
100%.
End our time with mentorship. Why do you think he did that? How can leaders be better mentors, and what's the why behind mentorship?
He was motivated. General Cinema had taken over. They ousted everybody, including his son. He didn't like the direction they were going in, so he was kind of motivated. And then saw an opportunity here and had an impressionable guy leading that was going to listen to him. And we sat in my office for hours and daily and talk retail. I asked him, I didn't know if he's going to be alive tomorrow or not. So we talk retail every day. So I think he was motivated, number one, and I think he also wanted to leave a mark. This was going to be it. He wasn't going to be mentoring anybody else. And he could come back today, and I say this in our meetings, that God, if Stanley Marcus could see what's going on today, he'd say, hold the course, Crawford. It's what we talked about.
Yeah.
So I love mentoring. I think it's amazing. I've got a young man who, he was in wholesale. And he, for years, had been, hey, Crawford, I want to come work for you. I want to come work for you. And well, okay. I wasn't sure about him. And his father died. So he was forced to now leave New York and come here. And so he hired him. And I didn't know he had a drinking problem. I didn't know much about him. I just knew the guy worked really hard. Had a tremendous attitude. Well, He's been with me for exactly a year. He's lost 30 pounds. He's posted he's quit drinking. I'm wanting to promote him to be one of the buyers and make him one of 3. He's had this unfinished business to move back to New York that he wants to complete, which he's going to do. Today's his last day.
Yeah.
And I'm heartbroken. His father died. He's got his sisters here, 2 or 3 sisters maybe, taking care of mom. Mom's good. Everybody's happy. He's doing really good. He's going to reapproach New York from, when you're a rep.
Healthy perspective.
Exactly. And when you go to New York and you're a rep, you're on the road, you're in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, seeing some nasty little men's store or whatever it is. And hey, let's go have some drinks and have dinner. And so you start eating all the time, start drinking again. And it could be down the wrong path.
Yeah.
However, today he's not the same guy.
Yeah.
And so,
That's cool.
yeah.
It's awesome.
And he said, will you just brought up, will you be my mentor? I said, yeah, if you'll stay. So of course I will. And so he's hugging me, but we wouldn't stop. I had to pry him off. Okay.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
And no offense to you Alabama Tide, Tuscaloosa fans, that's a true Seminole coming out right there. So,
funny you say that.
let's keep it real.
The only game that one year that Florida State won was beating Alabama in Alabama. It's like they were horrible. So
And that's why he had to take a shot at Tuscaloosa. You deserve every shot you get because you earn the reputation for being the best. Crawford,
Yeah, thank
you for the
including me.
investment of time and
Right.
decision points.
Yeah.
well, I
thank
hope
you.
I answered your question.
It was great.
It was phenomenal.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for taking time to spend with Decision Points. Have a great day.